Casey here with Wellbeing Connections, and I want to thank you for joining us for today's hub, where we're going to be talking finding balance with the 4 pillars of well-being. So as we jump in to get started here, I am going to share my screen with you guys, and we will jump in. So as always, you can find us on wellbeingconnections.org, and from there you can sign up for our email list, or you can click the QR or scan the QR code and join us there. Awesome. So as I mentioned today, we're going to be talking about finding balance and building that balance with the 4 pillars of well-being. So as always, we start with that nice calming activity to get us tuned in to our body and put aside the stress in the day for just a few moments. And today we're going to practice that with our 4-7-8 breath. So the way we practice that is we're going to take an inhale for a count of 4. We're going to hold that breath for a count of 7. It does feel like a little while. And then we're going to exhale that air out for a count of 8. We'll take 3 full rounds of that breath, and then we'll jump in. So you can find yourself in that comfortable place, maybe roll your shoulders back a time or 2, or even just sigh it out, close your eyes if that feels right, and we will jump in. So when you're ready, let's take that breath for a count of 4. Inhaling, 1, 2, 3, 4, holding that breath for a count of 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and exhale for a count of 8. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's take 2 more rounds of breath here. Inhale for 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold for 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and exhale for a count of 8. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. One more round here. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold for 7. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and exhale for 8. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Take a moment to pause. Notice what, if anything, changed after taking just a few minutes to tune into your body and to focus on your breath. When you're ready, we'll jump on in as we get started diving into building that balance and maybe harmony with the 4 pillars of well-being. And well-being is a term that brings up many ideas or many different perspectives from each of us. We have our own unique take on what well-being is and what it means. And I want you to just take a moment and jot down a few words that come to mind when you think of well-being, what maybe that includes, or just some feelings, thoughts, or components that come up. As you're brainstorming, a few words that come to my mind for me would be feelings of safety or calm, overall quality of health, balance, ability to manage stress, make meaningful connections. So again, jot down some words for you that represent well-being. Now, because well-being is such a personalized concept, we're going to break it down into some different categories that are universal about well-being as a whole. And this helps us kind of create a harmony that supports our unique goals and priorities. And the 4 pillars or the 4 categories of well-being that we are going to briefly touch on today are going to be physical well-being, mental well-being, emotional well-being, and spiritual well-being. So let's jump in a little deeper with those 4 categories or pillars of well-being and figure out how we balance those needs. So like I mentioned, the 4 different types of well-being categories, pillars, however you want to kind of describe them, that encompasses our whole well-being. And how that well-being is made up takes a different ratio of each one of those items. And that ratio looks very personalized to each individual, and that personalization changes based upon the stage or phase of life that we're in. Now, when we dig a little deeper into each category, we're able to structure our days, our habits, our priorities to make sure that that well-being is in a place that makes sense for us, that those components work together to move us to our desired state of well-being or achieving that harmony of well-being components that we like. So, when we think of physical well being, this is maybe one that comes top of mind to most people when they think of well being. Physical well being is when we focus on actions that are revolving around maintaining our health. For example, it may include our physical activity, our nutrition, our hydration. Physical well being also includes sleep, or a lot of people include sleep here. Next, thinking emotional well being. This is when we are prioritizing actions, focusing on managing our emotions, kind of responding to the world around us with intention versus reacting. Maybe even building resilience. So, getting that ability to bounce back when a challenge happens, or even maintaining a positive mindset. From there, we move to mental well being. And this is when our actions are focused on experiencing that sense of belonging. Um, this includes relationships, engaging with others in our environment. So, how comfortable do we feel with the relationships that we have, and how would we maybe describe them? And then finally, and again, none of these are more important than the others. They all have that place, and what that looks like for each one of us is our spiritual well-being. And this is when we have actions focused on something bigger than ourselves. It's often tied to like our purpose and our meaning of our life, as well as hope and optimism for what is yet to come. So that's a very brief summary of the four different types of well-being, or the pillars of well-being. Now, having an understanding of these well-being categories allows us to take an opportunity to reflect on our current well-being, whether that be our routine or our habits, and make any adjustments to bring those pillars more in alignment with what it is that we desire for our well-being. Maybe you're feeling a little off balance on the inside when it comes to well being. Now, this might look like prioritizing one type of action, or not knowing that, hey, maybe there is something over here, maybe on that mental or emotional well being side, that I haven't maybe taken the time to consider before. Um, Having the perfect well being plan, but not being able to execute on it, can also be a cause of where that off balance feeling comes from. So, one of the ways that we like to bring that all together into a harmony that makes sense for us, that we're actually going to do, is by taking time to reflect on our current well being practices and how they fit in with each well being pillar, to give us a good understanding of where we're at today, maybe where we might want to go, and how we want our overall well being to look or feel as we move forward and to that desired state. Now, this self reflection allows us to kind of step out of the weeds of our current circumstances, so we don't focus when we're reflecting on the day-to-day responsibilities or tasks that we have to hold. It really gives us that bird's eye view of our life, and from where we're at today and where we want to go. So, by taking time to reflect, it can be challenging. Sometimes we don't know where to start. So, today we're going to start with a few just general reflection questions to get us started, to build that momentum. Self reflection doesn't have to be complicated, but it is important for us to get that understanding and to give ourselves the time and the importance and priority in our lives and schedule. But two kind of reminders for us as we get started. When we start to tackle self-reflection, sometimes we can uncover some uncomfortable thoughts or feelings. So if that comes up for you, I encourage you to reach out for support, whether that's a trusted family member, friend, acquaintance, or professional support. You can always call or text 988. And then secondly, if personalized support is something that you would like on your self-reflection journey, you can always reach out to us, and we would love to connect with you to see if we would be a good fit for you on your well-being journey. So let's get to the real part, which is the self-reflection questions, right? So some questions to ask yourself as you're beginning that self-reflection process of where am I at with my well-being, is maybe starting with what's going well. What is going well currently regarding my physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual well-being? This allows us to build on some successes to help us build with the momentum that we currently have and keep it going. The next couple questions is what changes might I like to make regarding my well-being? Another way I like to look at this question is what are things that I want more of, or what are things that I want less of? Maybe I want more calm and less chaos. Uh, Maybe I want more structure in certain parts of my life to allow me the freedom and flexibility to be spontaneous in other parts of my life. For example, that might be more structure with my meal planning. So dinner time can be flexible throughout the week. Um, so that kind of covers that. What do I maybe want to change? What do I want more of? What do I want less of? Another question to consider when we're looking at self reflection is how do these changes or things that I want more of or less of align with my priorities or my values? And if hearing those words, priorities and values, kind of gives you the heebie-jeebies, the creepy crawlies of like, ooh, I don't even know what my priorities or values are. I encourage you to dig a little deeper into that and or reach out, and we can definitely cover that in a session. We would love to talk through getting to know who we are and what those priorities and values are. Continuing down, one thing when we're self-reflecting, it can feel overwhelming. We maybe know where we're at currently and where we want to go, but it's like, okay, the gap between those two things feels like the Grand Canyon in between. So I encourage you to think about what's maybe one thing you can start today or tomorrow to move just a little bit closer to, again, build on those strengths and successes. And as you're doing that, I encourage you to think about what resources, support, or tools you might need along the way. Whether that's a communication plan with a friend to hold you accountable to getting out on a once a week walk. Whether that is, hey, I'm going to set aside 30 minutes once a month to build out a meal plan. Whatever, I'm going to take 15 minutes for me every other day, just quiet time so I can regulate my emotions and find some calm and quiet in my weeks. Whatever that looks like for you, what tools or support might you need along the way? And this is just a starting place. The exciting thing about self reflection is once we start to grow the habit and the practice of it, we start to weave it in to our day to day living, or we find that time period where it makes sense for us to just take a moment to pause, check in with ourselves, maybe recognize what's going well or what we might like to change, and then allows us to maybe get started with that one thing next. And just remember, it's always everyone is on their own well-being journey. This is a starting place for you to build that momentum, for you to continue on having your well-being add to your life, thinking about the value that it'll bring. So that's a lot of information here in these last 6-7 minutes. So I want you to kind of think of a couple questions here as we start to wrap up. How would you maybe rate your current well-being? Thinking about that harmony of all four pillars. And as you're thinking about a number on that scale of 1 to 10, how you'd rate your current well-being, what makes it that number? So maybe what makes it an 8 versus a 3? Or if you rated yourself at a 5, which is kind of that in between, what are some things that make it that 5? Another question to consider as you're assessing well-being as a whole is what might you gain from understanding your ideal well-being balance or harmony for you? What are some potential positive outcomes that might result from gaining this deeper understanding of what you really desire for your well-being? A couple other questions here to wrap up. How might you keep your well-being top of mind as you move forward? What maybe would you like to do or try or explore to keep that well-being top of mind? And if you rated yourself at the beginning here with 8, 9, or 10 of, yeah, my well-being is currently at a place that feels good. Here's the reasons why. What do you want to keep doing or anchor into your routine so that number is sustainable going forward? So as you're wrapping up, again, kind of going back to those self-reflection questions, you can start to think about what's maybe one thing you might want to try and explore. What tools or support might you need as you work to find harmony and balance with the four pillars of well-being? What does success look like to you? How are you going to track it or measure it? And then as you're refining maybe that first step, is there any way you can make it more specific so that way you know with clarity and certainty, yes, I'm moving in this direction, and here's what I'm going to do, and here's how I'm going to achieve that, as well as what to expect when I achieve that. So I challenge you to take a moment to pause and notice, what are you taking away from just these last 10 minutes of reflecting on your well-being? If there's any questions regarding general well-being, building balance within the four pillars, or even growing your personal skill of self-reflection, I'd be honored to be considered to support you on your well-being journey. You can reach out to us at admin@wellbeingconnections.org. You can follow us on social media at Wellbeing Connections SD on Facebook and Instagram. You can sign up for our email list. This huddle summary will be posted on our YouTube channel. And I invite you to join us for our next huddle coming up here on April 17th, Thursday of 2025. And we will be discussing embracing the moment. So, how to be present in that busy season when life seems to pick up speed in the springtime. I just want to encourage you that you can do this. I'm so excited for you to be on your well being journey, and I look forward to seeing you next time. All the best.